guys, welcome to Shades Tube, and thank you so much for tuning in. Today is Sunday, November the 5th, 2023, and I'm glad to see you guys. I decided to come and do a real quick live because I wanted to tell you guys about this case, and plus I came home and take a little break, so I figured I would come in here and do a real quick live to give you this case so I can do something totally different tomorrow, okay? But before we go ahead and do this live, I just want to say if you enjoyed this content, you can thumbs up this video. Also hit the bell notifications so you can be notified of any upcoming videos, and subscribe to the channel if you are already not subscribed. Welcome to all my new subbies, and thank you to all my subbies that's been with me for the longest. All right, let's go ahead and do the Copyright Disclaimer Act under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, commenting, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, research, and etc. That entire copyright disclaimer will be in my comment area. It is in my description area, and some of it is scrolling across the video. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, guys, because I don't have that long. All right, this is not going to be a long video. For real, it's not. All right, we're just going to go over this case, and then, I'm going to show you some pictures, probably play a couple of TikTok videos about it, and that will be it. All right. All right. So anyway, guys, this case right here is concerning Brigitte Harris. All right. Let me give you some information about her real quick. Hold on for 1 sec. What was I getting ready to do? I forgot what I was ready to do on this daggone thing. Oh, yeah. Welcome to everybody in the bushes, and thank you, and welcome to everybody who watches this in the replay. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna give you some background information on this girl, and then I'll tell you exactly what happened. Okay, let me show you guys what she looks like, and you guys know I'm not gonna split the screen because I'm always in a hurry, and I be doing these videos like in a hurry, honestly, because I just be so busy all the time. So let me just go ahead and show you guys this chick, what she looks like, so y'all can get it. Just have a picture to go with who I'm talking about. That is always good. So this is her right here. That is Brigitte. Okay. So let me go ahead and tell you the story about her. So anyway, Brigitte was born on June 6, 1981. She's from Staten Island, New York. Her occupation was a former JFK airport security guard. And she, let me make sure this is, she was convicted of second-degree manslaughter. All right. So I'll give you the other information later, but let me go ahead and tell you about her. So she's a New York woman who committed the suffocation and castration manslaughter of her Liberian-born father, Eric Goodrich, in her Rockaway, Queens apartment. Both Brigitte and her sister, Carlene, had claimed that their father had raped them and sexually abused them since they were little girls. Due to her abuse allegations, Brigitte received an outpouring of supporters, including U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer, New York State Senators Dianne Savino, and Eric Adams. At Brigitte's highly publicized trial in fall 2009, she was convicted of second-degree manslaughter and sentenced to 5 to 15 years in prison. Okay, so anyway, this is another picture of her right here, so y'all can see her. That's her right there too, okay? So anyway, Brigitte was born on June the 6th, 1981. When she was 2 years old, she was abandoned by her mother in their Park Hill, New York apartment, and she went to live with her father on Bayshore, New York. I don't know, these people with their typos. In Bayshore, New York. Her father later moved back to his home country of Liberia, and Brigitte moved around with relatives. She was physically abused by her grandmother in that house. She said they were slaves, and if she or her other sister disobeyed their grandmother would beat them with a stick. Brigitte also claimed she was sexually abused by her cousin. She said her cousin forced her to perform oral, you know what I'm talking about, on him. Now, during a family trip to Liberia, Bridget confronted her mother and pastor about the abuse from her relatives, but Eric Goodwich denied the allegations, claiming that she was crazy. By the age of 17, Bridget moved out. When she was 26, Bridget had been living on her own for years and worked as an airport security guard. So I don't know who this is. I don't know if this is her sister she took a picture with or what. But this is them here. Or if this is a friend. I'm just gonna assume. I don't know for sure. But I know that's Bridget, and I'm assuming that's either a friend or her sister. Anyway, after several years of not seeing their father, Bridget's sister, Carlene, called Bridget because their father, Eric, wanted to talk to them. When Bridget arrived, she saw one of her nieces sitting on her dad's lap. Bridget and Carlene argued about her sister letting their father stay in her house, considering what he had done to them as children. So I'm guessing that is her other sister. Eric told Bridget about her decision to take his granddaughters with him to Liberia. On July the 28th, 2007, Bridget Harris decided to see her father alone in her Rockaway apartment to reason with him and try to convince him not to take the girls. Bridget asked her father to get help. Anyway, after the conversation became heated, Bridget handcuffed her father and gagged him with a towel to prevent him from screaming. Then, using a scalpel, she removed her father's penis. Then she called 911 and let them know he was still alive and needed help. She told the operator that she was on her way to the police station, but she never showed up. Instead, she called her sister and told her what she had done. Carlene, who is Bridget's sister, advised her to come to her home instead of going to the police. When she arrived, her sister called EMS. After seeing her with the scalpel in her hand and still in shock, they decided to check her into the Richmond University Medical Center psychiatric ward. Bridget's sister Carlene hired defense lawyer Arthur L. Adala to represent Bridget. She told the lawyers details about the sexual abuse that happened throughout her childhood. She claimed he told her how, in some African cultures, fathers have to take their daughter's virginity. He said he was doing it because he loves me, and that is how fathers show love to their daughters. Bridget said Carlene also decided to break the silence and finally admitted that she was sexually abused by their father as well, but was too afraid to speak up. She set up a website called SaveBridget.com to raise money for her sister's legal defense. So I guess this is Bridget again in this picture right here. I guess I'm guessing that. So anyway, after she was discharged from the psychiatric ward on August the 16th, 2007, Bridget was charged with second degree murder and first degree manslaughter and was held at Rikers Island. Bridget, who had referred to herself as Lady Vengeance and the original Dark Angel on her MySpace page, had claimed that she had not intended to kill her father. I felt that I had to stop him, take away his weapon, which was his, you know what. Anyway, 2 years after her arraignment for second degree murder, Bridget went to trial in September of 2009. She testified in her own defense that she had researched the 1993 castration case of Lorena Bobbitt. Prosecutors maintained that Bridget had intentionally handcuffed her father, stuffed a towel down his throat, and then used a scalpel to remove his genitalia section. She threw the severed, you know what, under a far Rockaway boardwalk. Brigitte argued that her motive for the killing was not revenge, but an act to prevent Goodrich, her dad, from taking his granddaughters to Liberia and molesting them. On September the 30th, 2009, Bridget's jury found her guilty of the lesser included what? Guilty of the lesser included offense of second degree manslaughter. One juror reported that none of us felt that she deserved to get any murder charges or anything. So we decided on second degree manslaughter. Again, this is her again, smiling in the guess somewhere in the jail somewhere, I guess in the courtroom, the back where they talk to you, I don't know. Despite jury letters, Queen's Superior Court Judge Arthur Cooperman sentenced Bridget Harris to the maximum of 5 to 15 years in prison. After serving 3 years, she was released on parole on August the 13th, 2012. Bridget said, I don't think killing him was the answer. I can't believe I actually did it. The only thing I had in my mind was to stop him. She also stated that she wants to work for the advocacy group STEPS to end family violence when she gets out of prison. Bridget's case was profiled on the Oxygen Network series Snapped in November 2010. The program contains statements from Bridget, her attorney Arthur L. Adela, I forgot how I pronounce that, Adela, and her supporters. Her case was later profiled on the investigation discovery program, Deadly Women. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some more stuff about this chick. I don't know because I don't know too much about Liberia, but the people that I do know in like Nigeria, different parts of Nigeria, in Ghana, I just never heard of. I don't know if any men do this there, the fathers, but I just never heard of that. At least from these people that I know. Not saying that in other countries of Africa or other parts of Nigeria that they don't do this. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't. Do you guys think she should have went to prison for any length of time, really? Because if she's saying that her dad was raping her and her sister, and then she said she was afraid that her dad was going to take the grandchildren to Liberia and possibly do the same thing to them. Do you really, what am I trying to say? Do you really think she had a reason to castrate her dad, which resulted in him dying? Because you can look at it two ways. Like she said, she was trying to save her kids or her sister's kids' lives. Because if he would have took them to Liberia and did, if that's what they believe over there, I don't know. He would have did this, to break in, to take over the kids' virginity or whatever the case is. That would have been a traumatic experience for the kids. You know what I'm saying? The girls. So I don't know. I mean, the castration thing is one thing. I mean, I guess he bled to death and died. I don't know for sure. I'm trying to also figure out too, okay, how would he have the authority to take his grandchildren to Liberia? They're not his kids. Wouldn't he have to, they could have possibly stopped him through court. And another thing too, if you know your dad is, RAPEDU, and then you find out he did your sister too, honestly, I wouldn't be, he couldn't even come into my house. I'm just gonna be perfectly honest. Definitely could not even see his grandkids. Okay, period. So I think maybe some people may have had, a problem with that part of it because it's like, you guys were grown at that time. So you don't really, I think her sister let him in. I can't remember. The thing about it though, if her sister was being RAPD, I'm trying to figure out why would she even let her dad be in her house? If I'm remembering this story correctly. Let me look at this again. because her sister claimed that he had sexually abused her too. NRAPED, both. I'm just trying to figure out though, if you know your dad did this. Let me read this. Why would you let him be at your house? Let's see, where did I was reading that at? Because I was just reading this. Why? So let's go with this little story right here. Okay, look. And then she was abused by a lot of people. Her grandmother, just a lot of abuse in that entire family, allegedly. Let's see. So her dad did deny these claims though, and said that she was crazy. But if she was crazy, why didn't he take her to get psychiatric help? You know what I'm saying? If she was crazy, when she was younger. Let's see. So let's say when she was 26, she was living on her own for years and worked as a security officer. Let's see. And see, her sister Carlene called Brigitte because their father wanted to talk to them. And then when Brigitte came, that's when she saw one of her nieces, which is her sister Carlene's kids, sitting on their dad's lap. Okay. And so she started arguing with her sister about letting their father stay in her house, in Carlene's house, considering what he had done to them as a children. That's what I'm trying to figure out. If you know your father was RAPINGU and doing other things to you, how could you let your dad be in your house? For real, for real. And why would you let your kids even meet him or sit on his lap knowing that he did these things to you and your sister? That's where things don't add up for me. Okay. And let's see. And what you mean? His decision. Eric told them, well, excuse me, Eric told Bridget about his decision to take his granddaughters with him to Liberia. How is that his decision? They're just his grandchildren. In the United States of America, if the mom has custody, the grandparents can't be doing all these things. So I'm just trying to figure out, why didn't they go to the court or the police? You see what I'm saying? Especially knowing that this man, I don't care if he is their father, if your father is sexually abusing you in RAPING, he's no longer your dad. Okay, at least he wouldn't be mine. So therefore, he could not be in my house. He certainly could not see his grandchildren, and they certainly would not be sitting on his lap. So I'm thinking a lot of people probably had a hard time with that part of that story. Because if this dude is doing all these things to you, again, why? Even your sister claimed, even her sister claimed that she was RAPED by him as well. Okay, so why would the sister Carlene have the dad at her house and then let her children sit in his lap, girls? And then he talking about he gonna take them to Liberia? How? So maybe she could have had an alternative. She could have did something alternative, made a different type of you know, she could have did something differently. She didn't really have to castrate him. I think she could have still reported him and told the police what he had done. And I think you can, because I think, the statutory, the rape thing, I don't think that ever ends, if I'm not mistaken. So I think she could have told the police about that, and maybe they would have investigated that versus what she did do. You see what I'm saying? And as far as the dad just taking the kids to Liberia, he wouldn't have been doing that, because you could stop him from doing that. First of all, first thing first, don't let him see his grandkids. Put him out that house. He should have never been there. Don't even let him be around neither one of you guys or the kids. File charges on him for what he did. Because trust me, they're gonna question you. They're gonna go through all this stuff to see if you're lying. And usually sometimes they can tell. A lot of times they can't tell. Sometimes people lie and get away with it. I just think it's probably some other things she could have done versus just, you know, castrating him and all that. And then how did she cuff this man? He must have been little or something. Because I'm just trying to figure out, how was she able to handcuff him? Okay. I can understand she putting a towel in his mouth and then all that because she had him handcuffed. she was a big girl, so I mean, I don't know how big her dad was. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's a crazy, story because again, I think she could have made a different type of decision. You know what I'm saying? And another thing, did they really say she has some mental things going on? Because I don't see anything um, in this article that basically says this. You know what I'm saying? It says after being discharged from the psychiatric ward on August the 16th, 2007, that's when they charged her with second degree murder and first degree manslaughter and was held at Rikers Island. She said she felt she had to stop him, but you could have stopped him. She could have stopped him a different type of way and take away his weapon. If you reported to the police, his weapon still would be taken away somewhat. He won't be able to hurt kids anymore. I tell you that, because he would have been incarcerated or deported back to Liberia and never been allowed to come back over here ever again. Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can pull up some more information on this chick, Bridget Harris. So for me, I think just, if your dad was actually abusing you sexually and definitely doing the art thing, which I made a mistake and said one time in this video, but I just don't see how if you're a daughter or whatever the case is, you can allow this man to be in your house, yet alone to be around your daughters. Because if he did it to you, he would probably do it to them too. So that's the part I have a hard time, you know, um, thinking about because I'm trying to figure out why. You know what I'm saying? Because me, I wouldn't do it, because I would automatically assume that he would try to do this to my nieces or my daughter or whatever the case is. So I don't know. I think she got a lot of compassion, like I said before, um, and a lot of people felt for her, and they probably believed her story. And I do believe he probably did, sexually abuse them or whatever the case is. Um, and I'm thinking if she was crazy, just why did he obtain, you know, medical thing, care for her if she was crazy? Take her to the hospital, get her checked out. Anyway, this girl now, I believe this is her right here. I don't know for sure if this is her. Let's see. Let me see if this is her right here. Because I think this is her now. Yeah, this is her. Let me see. Hold on, y'all. Yeah, she is. This is her now, y'all. Hold on. Let me get this thing. This is a touch screen. I don't know why I don't ever touch it. And I'm always using this pointer thing, this mouse. That is her now. And she's an apprentice carpenter with the New York City District Council of Carpenters. She also studied to be an actress in the Community College of Rhode Island and took film and theater in the Bedford Hills Marymount Manhattan College program. She also worked with a group called RTA, or Rehab Through the Arts, an organization that brings theater to 5 prisons in New York. She is a client of STEPS to end family violence. And she's been working with them since 2007. She is also an advocate for children dealing with emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, and is currently working with TELL, which is a nonprofit organization that talks to family members about the importance of speaking out if they know their child abuser is in the family. And the thing about I'm still trying to figure out though why they didn't ever tell the police. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know because some parents teach their children not to call the police, don't tell nobody. And plus, I think her dad was tricking them, telling them that it was perfectly, basically trying to make them think that it was perfectly normal for him to do this. And maybe they believed that at the time, and then maybe later on in life, that's when they realized that he should not be doing this. So let's see. So let's see what she got here. Her father was 55 years old at the time, and he was smaller. Okay, I thought he probably was. He looked older, and he was smaller, but he weighed. I don't know how they said he looked at frail, or I guess he lost a little weight because they say he still was about 200 pounds, but he was in pain. He was suffering from a kidney stone. So the man that was standing, her dad, who was standing in front of her at that time, was different than what she saw years before, because I guess he, was stronger, more energetic, wasn't dealing with kidney stones or anything like that. So look, so they, you know what, when she went to her, hold on, when she went to her sister's, let's see, house, I guess he told her that they need to talk. Then he asked her to go out and get him something to drink. So Bridget then, y'all, walked to a nearby store. She bought back a V8 Splash and came back to the house. When she returned, she saw something that stopped her cold. That's when she saw her 8-year-old niece. I'm not gonna say the name, who is her sister's daughter, laughing and playing in her dad's lap. So when she saw that, I guess um it rung bells in her head or whatever the case is. Anyway, Harris grabbed her book bag and went back to the ferry. She knew she needed to see her father again, but alone. So a few days later, he called, and as the two of them set up another meeting, he let her know that he intended to take her two nieces back with him to Liberia. So Bridget was like, "This is too much," and then she went back to her sister mad. Then her and her sister got into an argument, and she was saying to herself that her sister, of all people, should understand the danger of sending two little girls away with their father because of what their father did to them when they were growing up. And so she asked her sister, "How do you do it? How do you go on?" And then her sister said, "You just do it. You move on." So on Wednesday, July the 25th, 3 days before she would see her father again, Bridget flicked on a camcorder, aimed it at herself, and started talking. She said, "Okay, so testing right now. My name is Bridget Harris, and this is the story of my life." Well, not the whole thing, obviously. It'll take way too long. Just the summary reasons why I am doing what I'm about to do, why I feel I have to do it, why it must be done, why I have waited this long to do it. And so you can judge me. But before you do, get the whole story. That's all I ask. That's what she wrote. I mean, that's what she recorded with the camcorder. 3 years have passed. It's a few days before Thanksgiving, and Bridget is sitting at a conference table at the maximum security Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for Women in Westchester. Two guards are sitting within 5 feet of her. One of them, while waiting for her to be brought in, told me privately that she liked to shake her hand. There's a calm about Bridget as she talks. She is remembering that day in Staten Island when she saw her niece on her dad's lap. She said, "It took me right back to myself, playing and laughing and giggling. It seems innocent, but I know what he's thinking." Okay, let's see. I'm not going to go through her background. So let me just tell you exactly what she said about her dad. She said in one of her earliest childhood memories, her father orders her to undress and lie naked on a bed in a guest room. She remembers him getting on, on top of her and trying to have sex with her. She remembers the phone ringing and pleading with her father to go answer the phone and him telling her, "Don't worry about it." She remembers him getting off her in time. She remembers holding her doll. She remembers being in pain. She was only 3 years old, y'all. 3 years old. That's again, this is why I said, I don't know. When they got grown, I don't understand why I don't understand why they didn't tell the police, because he still could have had charges brought against him. Her siblings have all confirmed everything Bridget says her father did to her, and yet, excuse me, her siblings have all since confirmed everything Bridget says her father did to her, and yet her father also was the closest thing to her, to a constant in her childhood. Her father had once been a familiar face in the Staten Island African expat community. He had left Liberia and started several businesses: records, imports, and exports, a taxi service. Bridget's mother remembers him as a philanderer with a prevailing interest in young girls. Mm-mm-mm. Bridget was about four when her father first forced her to perform oral sex on him. He sat on the bed and took his pants off, pulled his you know what out, and told her to SUK on it. Okay, SUK on it. That's what she remembers. She said later, wait a minute, she remembered that later. And she said, I guess I was doing it wrong. So he said SUCK on it like a bottom. And I guess I still wasn't doing it right, the right way, because he laughed and said, Don't worry, I'll teach you. What the hell? At 12, Harris was sent to Liberia to live with her mother, and what she hoped would be a tearful reunion turned violent. Lucy Ann, her mother, beat her with a baton, I guess, so hard that it left permanent marks. Life with her mother became so unbearable that she actually went to live with her father again. When her mom told him I couldn't stay with him because of the abuse, I denied it ever happened. So her mom knew about it too. So Bridget recalled later in a journal, I convinced myself it never happened. So that's probably the reason why she didn't tell the police. Her dad soon with left her with a girlfriend, who would beat a naked Bridget with a watoon, a waitan, or whatever it is. Then she poured a solution of ground hot peppers into those wounds. People are crazy. In 1996, during a flare up in the country's ongoing civil war, Harris Bridget took advantage of a free airlift out of Liberia to flee her father's girlfriend. Her father took her in again in New York. She was 15, fully into puberty, and her dad took full notice. He forced her to be still as he performed oral, you know what, on her, then to watch porn with him. In Africa, not all parts of Africa, I hate when they do that. Fathers sleep with their daughters to show that they love them, he told her. Not in every country of Africa. A half sister and aunt promised to help, but in 1997, Eric took Bridget back with him to Liberia, where he was living with two women. Bridget later described them as distant cousins with whom he often had sex. On New Year's Eve 1997, her sister Lovette was asleep when her father attempted a sexual attack on Bridget for the last time. She fell asleep only to awaken in the middle of the night as he was performing oral sex on her. But before I fully woke up, she later recalled, I had experienced some sort of pleasure. I didn't know what was going on. And then I realized it was him. For the first time, she physically fought him off. She was crying, and eventually he gave up. Goodness. She was 17 when she finally was able to get out and stay with her mother, also in Liberia. Then her dad let her leave, tossing her passport at her and letting her know he disapproved of her abandoning her friends, including Lavette. She stayed with her mother until she was 18, when she could qualify for a some type of loan. She told Lavette she would be back for her, then headed back to America. I told her I was going to get her out of there, Bridget said. A decade later, the fact that she wasn't able to keep that promise still weighs on her, so she wasn't able to get her out. Then Bridget tried to build a new life for herself. She stayed with family between stints at women's shelters. She finished high school and went to college for a year, then got work as a $17 an hour security guard in a freight section of Kennedy Airport. She made some friends on MySpace and started dressing gothic with spiked collars and multicolored hair extensions. Her father made a brief appearance in 2002. He came toward the door as Bridget was looking after her niece and nephew in Staten Island. Bridget called Carlene in a panic and later locked herself in a bedroom. They wouldn't see each other again for 5 years. Then slowly, the front that she created started coming apart. She moved to an apartment in Rockaway Park in 2006, 2 blocks from the beach. She wrote on MySpace, sweet beach parties, making s'mores, bonfires, getting drunk, and watching the sunrise. It don't get no better than that. But she found she couldn't have a relationship, and she never was able to go out with friends without getting drunk. She tried to talk about the abuse with her family. The Goodrich family is a different culture. Is a different culture, she says. In Africa, everything's skeletons have to stay in the closets. In the closet, don't put your business out there. They know what he did. They just, for some reason, decided to protect them. I still would have went to the police because she was in the United States of America by that time. In April 2007, she swallowed she swallowed some pills at work. When an EMS arrived, she went home, refusing to talk about why she did it. A few weeks later, she learned from a family friend that her father was coming back to America and staying with her sister and with her sister's daughter. So Bridget went to Staten Island that day, half hoping that her sister Carlene had thrown him out. Like Bridget, Carlene had been raped and abused by their father, but she had been spared the trips to Liberia as a teenager. While Bridget led an abstinent shell of a life, Carlene had had 3 children with 3 different men. She deals with her past one way, and I deal with mine another. That's what Bridget said. She couldn't understand how Carlene could take him in. I can't understand that either. Now watching her father with her niece, she had to do something. She searched the web for solutions. The first thing she said she did was find out if she could go to the police. Okay, so she did find out about that. So the statute of limitations says they couldn't do much about it. Damn, that's sad. He hadn't touched me since I was 17, 18 in Africa, which wasn't here. Okay. So she said she couldn't go to him and say, I think he's going to molest my niece. She couldn't go to the police and say that. There's no record. And she said her family was not backing her up either. So she said she was thinking, stop him any way that she can. Okay. So she said the first thing she learned was that it could be done. Everyone always focuses on Lorena Bobbitt because it's the most popular. But each and every case I researched, no one died. She read about cases in China and in Europe, and she said she started seeing how to do it without actually killing him. So on June 26th, she bought a package of 50 scalpels on eBay for $6.83, including shipping. On July the 25th, Bridget had a final argument with her sister, Carlene, on her home video titled My Reasons. She mentions Carlene's children explicitly. She said, we both know what he wants to do with them. She talks about what she's about to do. Somebody's got to do something. She says on the video, just know I am doing this because I know he's not going to change. I am really sorry, guys. This is something that just has to be done. So she and her father agreed to meet on the morning of July the 28th. He would come to her place where they could talk. He seemed even weaker than he did a month earlier. She didn't know it, but he had spent much of July in and out of the hospital, passing the kidney stone. So they traveled back to her apartment together, and on the train, she saw him looking at every young girl, each no older than 10. She held her tongue. Damn. Home in Queens, she gave him a tour and offered him some water. She waited for him to say what was on his mind, but he said nothing. She said, "Well," she said, "do you know why we are here?" He said, "No." "Why?" "We are not going to start that. You said you wanted to talk." He waved her on, so he said, "Talk." She was nervous. She started from the beginning, talking about the first time he on forced himself on her, the phone ringing, him trying to RAPE her, her crying and telling him to stop. "How do you even remember that?" he said. "Weren't you 3 years old?" This was his response, not shock, not denial, just a casual dismissal. She went on. She talked about what she remembered from when she was 4, the oral sex. He denied it. She talked about what happened later with the poem. He dissembled using some of the same excuses he had used in the past. "I was only teaching you to clean yourself, teaching you how to become a woman." What? Finally, he parsed the matter to its finest point. "I never penetrated you, so it wasn't wrong." What? He wasn't denying any. He wasn't denying it anymore. She felt right. She felt what is this? Emboldened. She started talking about the last time together, their last time together, when he tried to REP her and she would let him. That's when he interrupted her. "Well," he said, "the reason why I wanted to talk to you is because of something that happened in Africa with Lavette." So Harris Bridget fell silent as her father said what he must have been planning to say all along. He told her that her half sister back in Liberia, and now about 18 years old, had been gang RAPED as a child during the years that Bridget lived there with her. He was saying it was Bridget's fault that no one had been told about it earlier. Her first thought was that this was a lie, one that played on her guilt and served as an alibi if Lavette ever claimed to be abused by him. The story managed to make Bridget a victim all over again. It tapped into all the emotions that she had been holding on to for weeks: self loathing, guilt, and rage. Things moved quickly now. She was yelling, calling him a liar. "You knew what you did was wrong." He stood up and took a step toward her. She reached for the pepper spray she kept clipped to her belt. She sprayed him. They fought and fell to the floor. The coffee table broke. She overpowered him. Her security guard training coming to some use. So that's how she got him in the handcuffs. He passed out. She looked for a way to restrain him. She found some handcuffs. She had bought them herself. And she said she bought that after her friends teased her about her job as a rent-a-cop. She put those handcuffs on him, then noticed he was having trouble breathing. So by this time, she was in full panic. She started scrambling for a way to revive him. She splashed water on him, started calling his name. He awoke and started screaming. She decided she had to gag him. She tried a towel. She stuffed it in his mouth and wrapped duct tape around his head to secure it, leaving large holes so he could breathe. Okay. She pulled down his pants. She used scissors first. When they didn't work well, she went looking for the scalpels to keep him still. She went looking for the scalpels. To keep him still, she pressed her knees onto his windpipe as she crouched over him. One cut was enough. There wasn't a lot of blood. Wow. So when she was putting her knee into his windpipe, that's probably how he got, you know, suffocated and stuff. She thought, "I'm going to take it off and he's not going to hurt anybody else." She bought she brought her father's PENIS to the stove. Damn. And she turned on the flame. She brought her father's PENIS to the stove and she turned on the flame. Only the smell of flesh made what she had done seem real to her. Her stomach lurched. She shut it off, put the burnt Oregon in a paper towel and bolted from the house. Later, she would throw it under the boardwalk. Damn. She talked to 911 many times to report what had happened and see if he was alive. But by the time the police arrived, there was nothing to be done. The cause of death was, asphyxiation. Her dad had choked on the towel before he had a chance to bleed to death from his wounds. On September the 14th, 2009, Bridget sat next to her lawyers in Queens State Supreme Court in Kew Gardens, her rainbow color hair extensions gone, her goth gear replaced by a demure black sweater and purple shawl. In the 2 years it had taken for her case to make it to trial, she had ballooned to more than 300 pounds. And that's because she ate a lot of junk food at Rikers Island and her antidepressants that she was prescribed. Anyway, they did declare her mentally fit to stand trial. She was depressed and disassociated emotionally, therapists said, but never delusional. The facts of the case weren't in dispute. The physical evidence showed how she did it. The confession video explained why. As for what may have driven her to do it, the prosecutors argued in an opening statement that whatever horrors Harris had endured at the hands of her father should have little bearing on the crime itself. I'm not going to stand up here and say that the abuse did or didn't happen, Karen Ross said. But what I will tell you is that at no time did she ever report it to the police. That's what I said. To child services or even to members of her own family. And I don't know about that. She said she did. But I'm trying to figure out why come when she got grown, even though she said statute of limitation, still reported to the police and reported to child services. Instead, this defendant chose to take the law into her own hands. She made a deliberate choice to make a plan, to execute the plan, and to put that plan into actions. Harris' lawyer, Arthur Adela, who tried the case alongside co-counsel Michael Sabella, offered the jury the same set of facts with a completely different interpretation. He wasn't saying a crime didn't happen. He wasn't even saying Harris wasn't in some way responsible. Instead, he was saying that the jury should consider not just what Harris did to her father, but everything her father had done to her. If she wants to talk about vengeance, you have to keep in mind revenge only exists because there was an original sin, he said. Something that happened in the past. Then over the next hour, Adela went through every known detail of the abuse, sparing no details. The legal system wasn't getting it right, so she had to stop him because he just would not stop or couldn't be stopped. And the only way to stop him was to take off his weapon of mass destruction. And that's what her lawyer said. Anyway, the judge had given the jury options of two different manslaughter charges, first and second degree, along with the second degree murder charge. A conviction of second degree murder also might have been downgraded to first degree manslaughter on the grounds of extreme emotional disturbance, a mitigating defense that argues that the perpetrator had been somehow driven to act by he or she perceived as a legitimate threat. Harris' case then depended not just on whether the judge believed Harris was guilty, but whether she had been in some general way provoked into an act of self-defense. She took the stand early on, and Adela spent most of his time with her, putting her father's actions front and center. Later on, Carlene also took the stand. She couldn't be asked directly about the abuse, but she managed to display sympathy toward her sister in full view of the jury. Anyway, deliberations took just a day. On September the 30th, 2009, the jury acquitted Harris of both second-degree murder and first-degree manslaughter. Instead, it found her guilty of second-degree manslaughter, the most lenient possible charge for what was clearly a premeditated act. Even Harris was shocked. She had never thought that her story would inspire so much sympathy. They knew I should have been charged with something, even though I didn't intend to kill him, she says. They were just trying to find a way to work around it. In order to settle on manslaughter, too, the jury had to be convinced that Harris' actions which, while clearly demonstrating a reckless disregard for human life, weren't meant to kill. Some of the jurors seized on the fact that it wasn't the cutting off of Goodrich, what that killed him, but the gagging. I felt she didn't seem reckless by putting the towel in her father's mouth, says a juror. Says juror George Sorokis. You see that all the time in the movies. I wouldn't have thought he would die from that either, but her actions did contribute to his death, so the manslaughter 2 charge fit. We gave her what she deserved. Anyway, 7 of the juries were supportive of Harris, Brigitte, that in the days leading up to her sentences, they wrote the judge asking him to give her no more jail time at all. Brigitte was sentenced on the day her father molested her, wrote Blanche O'Donnell. She deserved a life full of love and support, not prison. One juror sent Harris a book as a gift. Still another sent her a Whitney Houston CD. Several social workers from Rikers pledged to find her a job and give her free counseling if the judge would set her free. So Judge Arthur Cooperman was unmoved. The jury demonstrated leniency that the court may otherwise have exercised, he said. He gave her the maximum prison term, 5 to 15 years. Bedford Hills, Harris says she found therapy and support she never had before. It would be wonderful to be one of the shiny, happy people, not just pretending to be happy, not having to have memories of flashbacks, she says. I don't think it's going to happen though. All the psychologists have said you can never get over it. You have to learn to deal. So that's my big issue right now, learning how to deal. But she misses her niece, the niece she thought she was saving by attacking her father, and for word of longs for a word of Lovette, her half sister, who she believes is still in Liberia, in the reach of her father's family. At night, she's been dreaming of being in Africa and not being able to help protect her. Even when he came to the house, I didn't think I could do it, she says. And then he had to mention Lovette. She had just one dream about her dad. We were in Africa. The weird part is he was protecting me from somebody else who had abused me. He ran the guy over with his Jeep. She said, I suggested the dream could be about the life that she wanted, a life where she has a father who helps her. She laughs softly, yeah, she says, which he never did. Okay, so anyway, she only did 3 years, I believe, and she got out on, I think, parole or something like that. And she's, living a decent life now. She has a decent career and everything, and I'm glad to hear that. Again, I still wonder why she didn't go to the police, but she did explain that. She said the reason why she didn't go is because, for one thing, she said her family didn't. They did. I guess they did believe her. They were just trying to cover it up, because a lot of African cultures do believe in keeping everything in the house and don't say anything. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically what her family was doing. They knew about it because she told them, but they wanted to keep it in the family and not tell nobody. I guess not even telling the police when she was younger. The police in America. And I guess she said when she got grown and she looked it up, she saw the statutes of limitation, didn't allow for her to. She could have still told the police, but she said from her, she was saying that no charges would be filed against him. I don't know if that's 100% true, you know, but that did happen a couple of years ago, so more than a couple of years ago. So I don't know what the statutes of limitations are in that state or city or whatever the case is, but she just felt like that was the only thing that she could do is castrate him, and clearly maybe she should have just taped his mouth, you know, and just left the towel out of it, then maybe he probably would have died. I don't know, you know. Um, but I can understand, that she probably was scared and all the stuff that he did, and she felt like she needed to save, her niece, but at the same time, even though she may have read that the statutes of limitations and stuff, I think I still would have went to told the police. I mean, for real, I really would have. And the sister, I don't know why the sister Carlene allowed the dad the opportunity to even see his grandchildren, let alone letting her daughter sit in his lap when she already knew what he had did to her and her sister. That is the part I don't understand. It's one thing to put something to the back of your memory, right? But it's another thing to let your kids be around this person who did things to you, because you already know that he's capable of doing the same thing to your children. You know what I'm saying? So I think maybe the judge was looking at that too. He even said that, or either the lawyer said that, you know. So I don't like, again, I doubt that I would have handled it that way, but you just never know. You know what I'm saying? Just never know. So let me go into a TikTok video, see what they say about this case, and then we're gonna end this live, okay? Let's see. Hold on for 1 second, y'all. Bridget Harris. Let me turn this down. Because they always be singing on this damn thing. Hold on. Let's see if they say anything different. So let's see if they say anything different, y'all. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's see. So yeah, she did this in 2007. I'm still thinking of statutes of limitations. I don't know. I have to look that up to see. Okay, let's go ahead and see this. Let me see. I hope he ain't got no music playing.
When they were kids, they were sentenced to up to 15 years in prison.
Wait.
Or released into.
Let me do this over again.
Father's penis. This woman cut her father's penis off. Sister Colleen handcuffed him, stuffed a towel in his mouth, and then cut his tickle tackle off. They claimed he sexually abused them when they were kids.
She's telling the wrong information though, because it wasn't her sister.
They were released in 2012 in New York. This woman cut her father's penis off in 2007.
So
Brigitte Harris and her sister Colleen handcuffed him, stuffed a towel in his mouth, and then cut his tickle tackle off. They claimed he sexually abused them when they were kids. They were sentenced to up to 15 years in prison or were released in 2012 in New York. This woman cut
don't
her
have
father's
the
penis
correct
off
information, okay? Her sister was not there, okay? We didn't read anything like that. Bridget did everything. Remember, they got into a tussle, okay? And her dad was already weak and everything else. And I think he fell and all this other stuff. And then he became unconscious. She pepper sprayed him too. So he became unconscious. That's how she was able to restrain him and things like that. So the sister was not there. Also, she was sentenced to 5 to 15 years. However, she was put on parole after serving only 3 years in prison. Okay. I don't know. Some of these TikTokers, I don't know where they get the information from, but it's right there. Every article I read, it says the same thing. Let me see what they're saying.
At first, the officers couldn't figure out how he died, but they soon realized something was missing. It was his penis. It had been cut off and was nowhere to be found. There's a lot to this story. Viewer discretion is advised. Brigitte Harris was born on the 6th of June 1991 in Staten Island, New York, to parents Eric Goodridge and Lucy Ann Harris, who immigrated from Liberia to the United States. Eric had several businesses, including an import-export company, a record store, and a travel agency. Lucy already had 2 children and went on to have 4 more with Eric. However, when Brigitte was born, Eric denied she was his child. Eric was no longer satisfied with his home life and eventually left the family for another woman. Lucy, now left with 6 children, struggled to raise them alone. And in 1983, when Brigitte was just 2 years old, Lucy left her 6 children and returned to Liberia to attend her grandfather's funeral. However, as she didn't have a green card or citizenship, and despite leaving 6 children behind, she was not allowed to return to the US. The 6 children bounced around from foster home to foster home. Brigitte and her siblings eventually moved in with her father and his wife. However, in 1990, Eric took a temporary job back in Liberia, which extended for several months. Eric's wife grew tired of him and filed for a divorce. The children were sent to live with their aunt, Eric's sister, and grandma, Eric's mum, in Providence, Rhode Island. Bridgette's grandma was described as mean and hateful and didn't have an ounce of love in her body. She showed favoritism and treated them like slaves, while her cousins sat around doing nothing and would beat them severely for the slightest thing. On one occasion, someone had forgot to flush a toilet and left a big turd floating, which Brigitte got the blame for.
Did she have to put all that in this
Brigitte's
video?
grandmother went berserk, grabbed Brigitte by the collar and stripped her naked. Brigitte had no idea why she was in trouble. Whilst her cousins watched, her grandmother took a stick. He was dead. At first, the officers couldn't figure out how he died, but they soon realized something was missing. It was his penis. It had been cut off and was nowhere
she just started back over.
There's a lot to this story.
Let me stop that.
Discretion is advised.
Okay, she started back over. I was wondering, what the hell is she talking about? Well, I told you guys everything that transpired after her grandmother and all of them was abusing her. You know, how she went back and lived with people and all this other stuff. I already told you that entire story. I don't know why they go and do these stories like that and don't do the part two. So here we go.
Living in Liberia was a culture shock for her
and her siblings,
as Liberia was going through a civil war that worsened in 1996. Somehow, Brigitte's mother got documents proving her children were American citizens, and they were airlifted back to the US. Once back in the US, Brigitte again bounced around from relative to relative and ended up in a women's shelter. She also traveled back and forth between Liberia and the US. Eventually, in 2007, Brigitte finally found a place of her own with no one to answer to. She had made new friends and was working as a security guard in JF Kennedy Airport and was no longer in contact with her father. However, not long after moving into her apartment, her father, Eric, called. Brigitte had no interest in talking to him and told him to lose her number. Eric's health was failing, and in June of 2007, he returned to the US to seek better medical treatment. His daughter Carleen allowed him to stay with her. Brigitte wasn't happy that her father was now living with her sister. Carleen tried to convince Brigitte to forgive their father as he was trying to make amends. Although Eric was a well-respected entrepreneur in his community, behind closed doors, Eric was a monster. He had put Brigitte through years of rape and he would pretend to play games with her by bouncing her on his knees, then go on to perform acts that no 3-year-old should ever have to go through. This animal first punished his daughter Brigitte at the age of 3. Then at the age of 4, he forced her to perform acts on him. The abuse continued throughout her childhood and into her teens, becoming more and more violent over the years. On one occasion, while Brigitte was in Liberia, he hid her passport so she couldn't leave and refused to return it. Brigitte told her mother what Eric had been doing to her for years. Lucy decided to tell a pastor that Eric had been in her daughter, but nothing was done. This God-fearing man, this pastor, looked the other way and suddenly became unavailable due to his busy pastoral commitments. Eric was a well-respected businessman. They didn't want to believe that he was a monster. She bravely fought him off the last time he tried to rape her. Whilst fighting him off, he dared to ask Brigitte what was wrong. Brigitte, now older, left Liberia for the last time and distanced herself from her father. However, she did feel some remorse as she had left her younger sister behind and knew he was her. She also suspected Carleen had been. However, when Brigitte talked about it, Carlene would change the subject. But now he was back in the US and wanted to make amends. Bridget's sister Carlene invited her for a family dinner and told her her father would be there and that he wanted to apologize. Brigitte agreed to attend the family dinner and took a 2-hour subway and ferry ride to Carlene's home in Staten Island. Brigitte arrived. This was the first time she had seen Eric in years, and she was immediately angered by what she saw. Eric was bouncing her niece on his leg just like he used to do to her as a child. Not only did she find that disturbing, but her father announced that he wanted to take Carlene's daughter back to Liberia. This triggered Brigitte. She was furious. She couldn't let this happen. She loved her nieces and refused to let what's happened to her as a child happen to them. Brigitte and her sister argued. She didn't trust Eric and couldn't understand why Carlene would agree to such a thing. However, in Carlene's mind, he was an old, sick man and didn't believe he would do what he had done to them growing up. Bridgette's mind was now flooded with flashbacks of an abuse she had suffered by Eric and other relatives.
Look, she probably, let me stop this for a minute. The sister also probably did that too. Was going to let him take that child back too with him, because remember she had a bunch of kids, and you know how that goes. That'll relieve some of the pressure off of her if the granddad take the other child or the other two with him to Liberia, and then she probably believed that since he was sick and stuff, that he probably wouldn't have the energy to do anything to them, which is very silly.
Brigitte wanted to go to the police again, living with relatives. However, living in Liberia was a culture shock for her and her siblings, as Liberia was going through a civil war that worsened in 1996. Somehow, Bridgette's mother got documents proving her children were American citizens, and they were airlifted
Okay,
back to the US.
so wait a minute. She just went over this already. Let me stop this.
Okay,
so we're gonna start. I hate when they start over like that.
Hey girl,
so hold on. So we already found out, because I'm not gonna play any more of that. We already found out exactly what happened after they had. She went over to the house and all that, and she met back up with her dad. I already told you the story and stuff, and then how her and her dad got into arguments and stuff that day, and then a physical like altercation somewhat, and then how she castrated him and stuffed the towel in his mouth and all the other stuff and handcuffed him and all that and stuff. I'm still gonna say, my sympathy still lies with her and her sister, okay? But at the same time, I'm still gonna say, once you got back to the United States of America, you got grown. I just feel like she should have just told the police. And let me check to see the statutes of limitations on that in the state of New York, because that's where she was at, right? Yes, New York. Let me see. I'm gonna type that in here like this. Hold on. I just want to see what it is. Let me see. It may have been different in 2007 though. Hold on, y'all. New York. I gotta do New York. Let me see if they'll tell me that. Let's see what it is. Oh, it's 20 years. So the statutory RAP in New York is 20 years for second degree RAPE and 10 years for RAPE in the third degree. Briefly, an abuser can be charged with second or third degree RAPE in New York State if the victim cannot provide consent due to their age or incapacity. So, what year was that? Okay, so she said in 2007, I think that's when she castrated him, right? So, what year was he doing all of this? In 19 what? She was 3 in 2007. How old was she in 2007? It's a lot of stuff you got to do to figure it out. Let me see. So if she was born in 19, what year did they say she was born in? 19, I forgot what year this chick was born. Let me look and see. Because if it's 20 years for second degree RAPE and 10 years for RAP in the third degree, let's see. What year? I forgot what year she was born. I think she was born in 86. Didn't they say 86? Let me go look at that story again on my thing. And then we're going to get ready to get out of here. Hold on. Because it's almost 9. I got 2 minutes. Let me see. Let me see what year. She was born in 1981. So if she was born in 1981, 81, 2, 3, 4. So in 84, she was 3. Okay, so let me see. 84, 94, 2004. Yeah, because that was 23 years later. So she couldn't, there was nothing going to be done to him. But if he did anything after she was 3, say she was, because she said one time he did something, but that was in a different country at 18. But what about when she was 17? Where did she say she was at 17 when he did that? Was she still in Liberia? But did he do anything after she was 3? Because if he did something like when she was 10, okay, so in 80, she was born in 81, 2, 3, 4, she was 3, 3, let me see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 80, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10. So in 91, say if he did it again and she was 10. So 91, 2001, 2011, the statutes was, she could have still pressed charges on him because that's not even 20 years unless he didn't do anything when she was 10 and he did it when she was just 3 or 4 or 5, because the other things that she did it was in 2017. No, not 2017. She was 17 years old and then she was 18, but I think she was in Liberia then. So maybe she couldn't do anything, but I still would have just tried to go to the police, still, you know, because these damn prosecutors, man, they, if he did anything to her, like RAPE, after the age of 10, say if he did it 11 or 12 or 13, she might could have had charges pressed on him because the statutory, the limitations is like, what did we just say? It's 20 years, yeah, 20 years for second degree RAPE and 10 years for third degree. So he probably would have had second degree, I think, I'm not sure. Yeah, because they couldn't provide no consent because they were too young. So yeah, because it's saying an abuser can be charged with second or third degree RAPE in New York State if the victim cannot provide consent due to their age or if they're not mentally sound. So therefore, I don't know if he did anything because I can remember after she was 3 or before she went to Liberia, because she said that she couldn't do anything because the statute of limitation was over. Okay, so that's based on if he did these things when she was 3 and 4. Because say if he did something when she was 10, the statute of limitations when she could still file charges because it would be within that 20 years. Because like if she was 10, and like I said, she would have been 10 and what? See, 81, 2, 3, 4. So she was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that was 81. No, that's 81. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 90. In 1991, she would have been 10, right? 91, 2001. So 2011 would have been, am I right? 91, 2001, 2011, it would have been 20 years. Okay. And she did all of this in 2007. So she still has some years left. That's only based on if he did these things when she was 10 years old or 11 or 12. And if she was here in the United States of America, we know she couldn't do anything about when he did it at 18 or 17, because I think she was in Liberia then, in a whole different country. And it's a shame that her mom went to the preacher too to let him know he didn't really do anything about it. And that's crazy. So that's why I don't know. Um, so that's why she said she did what she did because she couldn't do anything legal wise, against him. Because again, like I said, he might have not did anything when she was 10 or 11 or 12. I'm not sure, you know. And then what about her sister? When did he put his hands, when did he do anything to her? So if she would have, I think she probably just looked in a book online or something. If she might have talked to a police officer. I don't know. Um, but even I mean, I don't know because if he did anything to her at the age of 10, 11, 12, 13, the statute of limitation, still be there for her to file charges, for the state to file charges, or if her sister was touched. So I don't know. Maybe she did not know. Maybe she did try this. Maybe he didn't touch her at those ages. Maybe she was in Liberia because she was back and forth too. Remember that. So she could have been there, and he might have known that. You see what I'm saying? He might have known that and stuff. So you would have to know all of these details before you can really 100% say. But she said she didn't feel like she had anywhere else to turn. She did go to the police, or she contacted the police. They said could nothing be done. So she did what she thought she should do to save her nieces and to stop him from doing what he was doing. And she did not know she was gonna kill him, unalive him. That was a mistake. That was an accident because she did put the towel in his mouth, but she saw that on TV, so she thought he wouldn't die or anything from that. And he did, you know. So that's a trip. But anyway, I'm glad she, only did 3 years. I know they had to give her some type of jail, prison sentence, but I'm glad she only did 3 years. She's out, and she's, rebuilding her life and things like that and doing well. And hopefully I'm sure she got all the counseling. I think they said that she did, and hopefully her sister did too. And hopefully the other girl, her half sister, is doing okay as well. Because I'm pretty sure, I bet you, the dad probably did something to her as well. But her sister is still in Liberia, so no telling. But hopefully her sister is okay, her half sister. Other than that, guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning into this live tonight, learning learning information about the Bridget Harris case where she cut off her dad's, because he was sexually abusing her and her sister and doing other things of that nature in raping, her and her sister and things like that. If you want to know anything else about this case, you can just go to Google or YouTube and type in Bridget Harris, okay, and you can learn all about her more in depth. All right. Other than that, guys, don't forget to thumbs up this video if you enjoyed this content tonight. Also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe below and hit that bell notification so you can be notified of any upcoming videos. All right. Guys, don't forget, if you want to show support to this channel, you can do that by doing a cash app to $ShadeStube. All donations are used to better this channel, and thank you in advance. Check out my other videos. I just did a walkthrough at 5 and Below showing you guys the Christmas decor, so check that video out. And check out all my other videos and check out my shorts as well. And check me out on TikTok as well at ShadeStube. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And let me see if I think I told you guys everything. And I'll be back tomorrow, at 7:30. If I may try to do that live earlier if I can, but if not, it will be at 7:30. I got a tripped out live for y'all tomorrow, so make sure y'all tune in, okay? Other than that, guys, have a good night. Happy and blessed November. Happy and blessed new week. And I hope you guys had a beautiful, blessed weekend. Until tomorrow, have a good night, and I'll see you guys in my next live. This is ShadeStube. Good night, y'all. Peace out.